So the D&D movie trailer has dropped, and we have a lot of monsters, a lot of locations that we can see in that trailer. We're going to break down some of the things and explain the D&D side of what some people have seen. And one of my favorite things is the mimic.
So mimics have their origins going all the way back to the earliest days of D&D. They are amorphous creatures that can change their appearance to look like common objects, like a chest or a table or a door or a corpse. And in doing so, they lure their food to them. Now, even though they sort of superficially resemble these objects and are almost unmistakable from these objects, they exude a sticky substance so that when you come into contact with them, you cannot detach yourself from them. And that's when the mimic kind of reveals its true nature. It sprouts pseudopods and begins to thwack you with them while producing an acidic substance that dissolves your flesh. All of which makes it very easy for them to consume you after you're dead.
It's a very D&D monster.
Yeah, it comes from old school D&D where literally everything in the dungeon was meant to kill you.
I think that's the reason people like the mimic so much also is that the rules have changed.
Yes.
Like a door will not just be a door now.
Yes.
A chair may not just be a chair.
Exactly. After you encounter your first mimic, your sense of reality in the D&D world is forever altered. You begin to suspect everything might be out to kill you.
And there's some fantastic art of like a world that's all mimics that I saw, I believe in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, which I love, where they're just sitting on a porch and everything's mimics.
Right.
I like the idea of a universe.
The table is a mimic. The plate of cheese is a mimic. Everything.
That also led to a lot of like paranoia from players as well.
Well, yeah, and that's part of its old school charm as well. As you learn pretty quickly that if the chest can't be trusted, then certainly the bench can't be trusted, and certainly the innkeeper can't be trusted. Nothing can be trusted at that point.
Another D&D favorite is the Owlbear. It is extremely cute. We've both seen people raise these things in D&D games, but
they were never meant to be cute.
They are not meant to be cute. They are very dangerous.
Yeah, they go all the way back to the earliest editions of D&D as well. And originally, the Owlbear was just described as kind of a wizard's experiment gone awry. When you combine an owl and bear, you get something terrifying.
Yeah.
Over the years, the art has evolved, and over the years, we've seen depictions of owlbears as more sort of big and fluffy than tall and scary, and that I think has lent a new aura to the monster, where some people now sort of look upon them fondly. And I am guilty of using owlbears in a more benevolent way in my own campaigns and stream games.
Yeah, I have done the same because players have kind of pushed that on me because they like the look of everyone loves owls,
right.
And then bear, and that just seems like the perfect marriage of monsters. But
one wonders why that marriage works and so many others just sort of fall by the wayside. Like nobody mourns the camel shark.
Another classic D&D monster is the Displacer beast, which I immediately get irritated having to fight.
They do have a particularly infuriating defense mechanism,
right?
Which is this ability to displace their actual location through the power of illusion. You think you're sitting there when in fact you're sitting over here. You, the Displacer beast, have figured out a way to make other people believe you're someplace you are not.
And it's another creature that is taking like a beast and kind of adding to it as well.
Yes, because were you just to sort of casually glance at it, it could easily be mistaken for like a very large panther or a jaguar. But then you realize, oh, it's got an extra set of legs. Oh, and it's also got two big long tentacles sprouting from its shoulders that can grab me, thwack me, drag me off, and will never be seen again.
And there is a history, like you can make friends with one of these, possibly.
Potentially, yeah. And I have also toyed with Displacer beasts that are kinder and gentler. We had a Displacer beast kitten show up in a recent D&D adventure that you can befriend and reunite with its parent. But by and large, they are very dangerous, and you should stay away from them.
Okay, this is one of my favorites. Is definitely a staple of D&D. It's the Gelatinous cube. I
Gelatinous cube.
love them.
What's not to love? They're 10 foot by 10 foot by 10 foot cubes of corrosive flesh-eating jelly that just exist because in the early days of D&D, maps were laid out on 10-foot square grids, and you needed a monster that fills a 10-foot square hallway? No problem, we got it covered.
We got a cube.
Yeah. Why is it a cube? What evolutionary legerdemain had to unfold to lend itself this wonderful cubular shape? I think it was simply jelly that evolved in 10-foot by 10-foot corridors.
And they're rather hard to see.
Yes,
weirdly enough.
they are transparent or translucent. Unless you happen to come across one that has a half-dissolved dwarf inside of it, or some loose coins or bones inside of it, then you might see the shimmering of the coins or the floating bones soon enough for your mind to mentally process what it is you're seeing and realize, oh, those aren't actually floating toward me. There's a gelatinous cube in front of me and I'm about to collide with it.
It's another definitive monster. Like you interact with it, and this changes the rules for you again of like
Yes.
being more careful, like the mimic or the displacer beast. The Gelatinous cube. I mean, I always will remember the first time I ran into, literally ran into one.
Yes, then that's normally what happens. And some particularly mean DMs, like myself, have done things like put them at the bottom of pits. So that when the pit opens and you fall, you just go blorp right into it.
Right, and they're acidic, but like magical items can survive and that kind of thing.
Exactly. They expel things that they can't dissolve after carrying them around for a while. But they're also hard to escape from. Once you get snared in one, it takes a bit of luck or resolve to get out of it.
There are a lot of dragons in D&D.
Oh yeah, we got chromatic dragons, metallic dragons, gem dragons, fairy dragons, pseudo dragons. You know, we've got dragons.
So we do get a glimpse of a black dragon. These are, I find them more terrifying than red dragons, which we also see in the trailer, just because black dragons kind of dissolve people as well.
Yeah. Given your choice between being immolated in flame and reduced to ashes and dissolved into a puddle of bone fragments and goo,
Yeah.
I guess I'd go with the immolation.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of a dreadful end, what black dragons can do to you. Whereas red dragons tend to be brash, black dragons tend to be sneaky, and they'll sneak up on you. There's sort of a cool reptilian quality to them that I've always respected.
Well, I mean, and that kind of comes from them like being in the swamp, right?
Yes.
And they might be under
Yes.
the water at any moment.
Swamps are definitely their domain, and the fact that they do often submerge themselves means that if you encounter one, you're probably in a swampy ruin being eaten alive by insects. You're already having a bad time. And then when that mound actually starts to rise up and the head with the horns curving toward you, pointing at you accusingly, fix on you, you realize you've probably only got about 6 seconds to live.
And these aren't just like the sharks of the sky, right? Like these are very intelligent creatures.
Absolutely. Like all dragons of the sort of chromatic or metallic caste, black dragons are blessed with intelligence, unparalleled greed. And so when you encounter one, chances are you will be able to talk to it, but unless you're really, really good at flattery or you have something that the dragon needs, chances are you're not going to fare well, because black dragons customarily are chaotic evil. Mm-hmm. So even if you, for a second, think you're on some sort of equal footing with one,
Right.
it can change its mind like that.
How does that compare to a red dragon?
Red dragons are frequently encountered in hot, volcanic realms or in mountainous areas. They like to make their lairs in the calderas of volcanoes or in high, craggy mountains. where they can sort of survey the lands around them. They are the mightiest of the chromatic colored dragons. Part of that traces to Tiamat, the dragon queen. Her favored head is always the red one. So they've already got that sense of superiority. They're quite big, whereas some of the dragons are sinewy. Red dragons tend to be pretty heavy, big, lumbering creatures. So gifted with this size and gifted with their intelligence, they just tend to be bullies. They just want to lay claim to as much territory as they can stand to have, and then smack around anything that even deigns to oppose them.
Oh yeah, one of the characters is a tiefling. What are tieflings?
Tieflings are described in our player's handbook. They are a playable race option. They've been in the game for many editions now, but they weren't sort of forefronted the way they were in the more recent editions, as being a sort of a core option to choose from. But they are folk who have strong ties to the lower planes, like the abyss and hell and the nine hells. And so as a consequence of their infernal or abyssal origins, they have horns and tails and sort of a presence and a countenance that suggests something of the fiendish quality. Even though tieflings themselves have just as much moral range as humans do, there's an air of danger to them born out of these origins that they have, these ties to the lower planes. And so it's not strange to see a player decide that they want to play like a tiefling warlock who's sort of a bad boy or a bad girl or something like that. They're sort of leaning into the type a little bit there. But tieflings can be druids, they can be paladins, they can be fighters, they can be anything they want to be. And they're not necessarily beholden to anything that happens in the lower planes if they don't want to be.
Tell me about the Underdark. This is a place I feel is inevitable for you to show up in.
Yeah, the Underdark is one of D&D's greatest adventure locations. It's not a specific location, it's really a kind of terrain. The Underdark is what we, in D&D terms, call the deep below, the night below, the deep, deep subterranean realms on any D&D world. So there is an Underdark in the Forgotten Realms, the deep caverns where horrid monsters lie. There is also the Underdark in all of our worlds. Anytime you go so far below the ground, past the sort of man-made dungeons of the world, into the natural caverns and spectral sepulchres of the darkest depths, that's your Underdark. That's the realm of creatures that have never seen the sun or never wish to. Aberrant things like aboleths make their homes there. Drow who have tied their spiders to Lolth have built cities down there. The Duergar, the deep dwarves, the gray dwarves, have their realms and furnaces there. Creatures such as mind flayers that shun the sun also abide in these dark realms. And one of the glorious things about the Underdark is that when you imagine just deep, dark caverns, it all sounds so bleak and dreary and gray and lifeless. But that's not how the Underdark is usually depicted in a D&D setting. Usually, not only does it include many dangerous creatures, but you can find fantastical rock formations there, towers carved out of stalagmites and glorious cascading waterfalls pouring down crystalline formations. You can find sort of a magical radiation down there that can do bizarre things to the life forms or cause bioluminescence in fungi. You can find fungi forests with mushroom stalks taller than redwood trees. So it really is a very lively environment, rich in adventure possibility.
And there are even massive cities down there.
Yes, absolutely. Massive, massive cities built by creatures who don't think of cities the same way that surface dwellers do.
Right.
And so their cities have sort of architectural motifs to suit that environment.
For the movie, you actually invented a prison, because they needed a prison, right?
Yes. So when in the early days of making the script, Jonathan and John, the directors, came out to Wizards of the Coast to meet with several folks and just pick at brains. And get some ideas that they could then take away and churn around. But they also had particular ideas for the story. And one of the ones that they came to us with was, hey, we'd like part of this story to take place in a prison. Is there a prison that we could use that's already been sort of created? And as they were talking more about what they needed, and I was racking my brains thinking about what existed, it dawned on me that we didn't have exactly what they wanted, but it would be very easy for us to create something together and then kind of embed it in the worlds of D&D as a thing that exists. And so these meetings happened early enough, and these conversations happened early enough that we were able to create this prison, which I ended up calling Revel's End, and actually place it in one of our adventures. So in the 2020 adventure, Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frost Maiden, we actually provide a map and description and encounters within this icy prison located in the frozen north of the Forgotten Realms. And in so doing, we kind of set the stage for the film so that it's a bit of a reward if you're watching the movie.
Yeah.
You see something that you recognize from an adventure that came out a couple years before. Waterdeep is a very big city on the Sword Coast of the Forgotten Realms setting. It is probably the biggest city in the Forgotten Realms. Very metropolitan. All kinds of folk gather there, live there. It's a walled city. It's got a mountain called Mount Waterdeep that the city is sort of built around. And there are all kinds of wizards who live there, so in terms of magical defenses, it's more than able to take care of itself. But it's often, if you need to get anything or buy anything, if you can't get it in Waterdeep, you can't get it anywhere else. A short distance north of Waterdeep is a smaller, but no less fascinating city called Neverwinter. And it is also on the coast, and it is also a walled city. But it is sort of built in the shadow of a volcano called Mount Hotenow. And a few years ago, when the volcano erupted, ash and lava came down the mountainside, poured into the city, and kind of damaged it badly, to the extent that the city is still rebuilding from that calamity. But before that terrible event happened, one of the things that Neverwinter was known for, and is still known for to this day, is that even though it's quite a bit north and in a region that is generally very, very cold, it's sort of built in a pocket of warmth. And for that reason, snow doesn't fall there, it doesn't get particularly cold there in the winter, hence the name, Neverwinter.